important was the last game just for like offensive, just to get a win going into the Big Ten?
It was important, for a lot of reasons. Again, I thought in Orlando we were playing pretty good basketball, just didn't get the results that you want. So the important part was to see the carryover from Orlando to our last game. And regardless of opponent or who we played, I wanted to make sure that there was carryover from our Orlando trip, and there was. And so now, continuing to build on that and having that be the blueprint of what it needs to look like from here on out, and be really excited about tomorrow.
Big Ten basketball is different when you split it like this in December and January. How is it different as to how you prepare a team? It used to be that January 3rd opener and everybody kind of geared towards it. How is it different now? How do you plan different?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing it probably does is just with your non-conference schedule. You just got to be smart with how you do that. Obviously there's a reason why Michigan State was in Maui for 3 straight games and they don't play a game until us. Because of just the importance of league play. You just got to be smart with kind of how you navigate that. I think it's a obviously early season challenge that probably most coaches wish you had a little bit more time just because of the importance of the game. But both teams are facing that. So, I think it's exciting to get your guys just kind of acclimated early for 2 games of what league play looks like. And for us, it's a bunch of new bodies that haven't gone through it yet. And so to get them to kind of see it before January and understand it, I think is always good. And it creates, obviously, excitement in early December.
And what are the coaching points for Frank right now? I think Wichita, he had the foul late in overtime, sat most of the last game towards the end. What sort of things are you trying to talk about?
Yeah, I think with him, especially in ball screen coverage, it's just being able to use your feet and playing a little bit lower, not getting upright, not using your hands. The hard part about ball screen coverage is for big guys, everybody's looking at it because it's the only thing that's really going on. And so, if you get those hands even a little bit and impede progress or just a little bit out of your body, it's easy for refs to see it. And so he's just got to be better with his feet and play a little bit lower. He can't let, those fouls get into his head. I mean, even if you do a great job, sometimes they might call him. But I think for the most part, for our guys, we've done a pretty good job with fouls. And as a team, we haven't fouled that much. And so you don't want it to get in their head because we're not a team. It's just you got to correct those couple detailed things and move on.
Is Rigsby going to be a key in the Big Ten and getting him open shots he's going to have to knock down to loosen everything out? It seems like when he shoots the ball well, things change.
Yeah, I think in general, believe it or not, we are a good shooting team. And now it's about just seeing one go in. And so I think with Brennan, hopefully, he had a couple in Orlando that's just, I don't know how they didn't drop. But to get him to space the floor especially, it will help everybody, and hopefully it's a trickle-down effect. When one guy makes shots, everybody else sees that ball go in too, and it's a snowball. So hopefully, other guys will kind of pick up on that, just like free throws last game. Parker goes up and makes his first 2. Well, everybody saw those go in, so the next guy that goes to the line, it's not like you're having to rebound after a guy who just went 0 for 2. Like it's the momentum of the ball really, and so hopefully that he continues that. I think my biggest thing with guys and shots is I don't want them to be hesitant. I think they need to be confident shooting the ball. They need to step to the ball with confidence, take the good ones. They know what those are, but just you can't hesitate. It's such a mental piece. And if you start second guess and hesitate, even that half second, it can go from being a good shot to now a semi-contested shot or a really contested shot. So those guys know what good shots are. I want them to be confident and shoot them.
Ben, do you have any update on Mike? What's his chances to play tomorrow?
We'll see today. He didn't do anything yesterday, so we'll see what it looks like today. You're also looking at with our schedule. We got a big break coming up too, so you want to be smart. My biggest thing when Mike's back, we want him to be back, for the long haul. You don't want it to be something where you force it back, and then all of a sudden, with a severe high ankle sprain, which he had, you tweak it a little bit. Now you're 2-3 weeks behind. So we'll look at it today and see what it looks like. But we're also going to be very smart with that.
You never want to lose a guy like that, but how have the rules changed in the backcourt? Like Lukai's had to do more, maybe point guard, and Isaac obviously has played a lot more.
Yeah, I think it's just that. It's giving guys the opportunity in minutes, which has been big. Even a guy like KB who played 12 minutes last game. But with him and TC out this period of time, even Caleb for that matter, it's given extended roles to Femi early, which is what he needed. It's even Kai. It's giving Kai extended minutes. It's giving Isaac extended minutes. It's giving Brennan extended minutes, and it's giving them experience. So you can't put a price tag on that, especially with new players. And so those guys were able to play through some mistakes. I was able to play. I think Kai was maybe 2 or 3 games ago, right around 40 minutes, which I wouldn't obviously have done with Mike there, but he needed that. He needed to get play through some stuff. And I think that's the big thing early in the year, to be able to get guys to be able to play through things, because that will help, come late in the year and January, February, and March.
It looks like Isaac is almost more confident every time he goes on the floor, even during the course of a game.
Yeah.
He looks like now, is that gonna change dramatically when he plays Big Ten basketball? They've scouted him, and they clamp him down. How do you prepare him? Because it looks like his trajectory's been good the last 3 games.
Yeah, no, I think it's been really good. I don't think with him that will change. I think he's one of those players that, it's not going to wow him that we're playing Michigan State. Right? It's not going to wow him that we're playing our first Big Ten game. You've got certain guys that are built a little bit different, and he's built a little bit different. All he needed was just the game experience. And now finished game 9. He's gotten that, and he's gotten the minutes. Well, now every game from here on out for a guy like that, he just approaches it as another chance to compete. He knows whether it's Michigan State or Bethune, your approach has to be the same if you're going to be successful. So I'm thankful that he's gotten those early minutes and extended minutes, because now, against these opponents, his confidence is going to be what you see. And that's real. That's not fake. It's not phony. I think with guys that have a chance to be really good players, and he's got a chance to be one of the really, really good ones, they are built a little bit different. And so I think he will have, he'll be zero phased by tomorrow.
Hey, Ben, way back when, do you recall how you told Izzo you weren't coming to Michigan State? Phone call or what?
I did. The first time, it's funny, so Tom Crean and Coach Garland were recruiting me, and the first time they were loaded, and I think they were looking at me possibly redshirt, and I didn't want to do that. It wasn't fully, but I think they had Jason Richardson, they had Charlie Bell, they had obviously Mateen, they had Mo Pete, and there was one other one, and bringing in Jay Rich, it was a numbers game. And then the second time when I transferred, it was funny, actually. So Brian Gregory was the assistant who recruited me to Northwestern. He was the assistant that got me a job when I was a GA that got in the business. But when I transferred the second time and I went up there for a visit, BG was on staff with Coach. And I remember sitting in their office, and they're obviously selling me on going there. But then when I left, it flipped, and he was kind of more like, well, I want you to come, but why wouldn't you just go to Minnesota? We kind of we actually kind of sat there and talked that out for a little bit. But he's always been like that. He's been a guy that, his belief, if you're a good in-state player and there's a situation that makes sense, that most in-state kids should stay in state. I know he said that to numerous guys, but that was kind of the message, and kind of the rest is history.
And you're playing these guys twice. Have they told you how they decide who you're playing twice? Is it darts or what's going on?
Yeah, it's there's a lot I could say about that. Yes, we're playing them twice. We play them early, which we often do, I feel like. I think there's a lot that goes into that. No, we don't know as far as, coaches, they don't inform us. It just kind of, they roll out the schedule, and it is what it is. I think, is this year everybody plays too early? So that was one thing that was different, is that in the years past, some teams had only had to play one conference game this first week early. And
But I'm saying if you got 3 opponents that you play twice.
Yeah.
And 17 that you play once.
Yeah.
Or 15 that you play once. But
So they had talked.
What's going on?
Yeah, they had talked about, for sure trying to keep the regional rivalries intact. But then I don't know. I just think it's by choice. I don't know. It'll be interesting how it is going forward. But no, we don't really typically know. I just assume most times we'll probably play Wisconsin, Iowa, I would assume. But even that, it's not like they've told me, these are your traditional rivalries. You're always going to play Wisconsin, Iowa twice or whatever, Northwestern because it's close twice. So I think crapshoot.
Ben, what have you seen out of Trey Holloman early on? I know you wanted him to stay here and play for you, but after 2 years now, it really seems like he blossomed in Maui a little bit.
Yeah, no, he did, and that was, I appreciate them because they, I was right when I got the job, and I know Michigan State had been recruiting him since like his freshman year, and so they actually did us a favor. We recruited him, and then they called me and just said, look, like it's nothing personal, but like I'm not trumping a relationship that they've had for 3 years. So, I've respected the way they've always kind of gone about things, respect him as a player. I mean, he's a kind of a prototypical Izzo point guard, kind of buys his time, finds his way, pushes the ball. His push is really good. I think now he's become a guy that you got to respect and honor from three for sure, especially when he's playing at the two. At the one, he does a good job of facilitating and, getting their offense running. And at the two, I think he's looking a little bit more to make shots and score. You could tell by his numbers even last year that his shooting has really taken a big step. But he kind of embodies what they are. He's tough. He plays hard. He's a communicator. He's a connector. He's about the right stuff. He's a big team guy. Doesn't matter if he's starting or off the bench. I think that kid's all about winning and whatever it means to win. And so I just kind of really been impressed from afar of how he's stayed with it. I'm sure, I guarantee people were probably in his ear about, are you going to stay? In the climate that it is, because they've had loaded talent, and especially as you get older, if you're not guaranteed a certain spot, I don't want to put words in his situation, but it's just across the country. That's what you see, and so to see him, ride that out and stick with it and be somewhere where I think is a perfect fit for him and where he's been successful and he's really impacted that program. I think is pretty cool, and I think it shows a lot about that kid and what he's about.
One or two more for Coach.
The last team you played was Michigan State, in the tournament, and they've kept a lot of their guys. Is there anything you take from that game? The physicality of it, and obviously Dawson was a major factor in it. Yeah. I think we've, the last two games, obviously the one here that we got them, and the one in the Big Ten, we played them, pretty good. They don't change much in terms of what they're gonna do. There'll be tweaks and different things here and there, but that's the part where you rely on the guys that have been around to kind of just talk about what the transition feels like and how real that is, and their outlets and their pace of, how they do things, and then in the half court, how they screen and what that looks like and what that feels like. Because I think that's important. We have a number of guys, again, that this is the first time. And I think the refs do a great job, but it's going to probably be called different than it has all year. It's league play, right? Stuff that, maybe wasn't called or was called a little too tight, however you want to put it. It's probably going to be different tomorrow. And so that can't surprise us. It can't shock us. Their physicality, all that rebound. We've proven in the past, and we have this year, that, when we're mentally right and we're dialed in and we're confident players, that we can play with anybody. And so, now it's about, regardless of opponent, we need to continue to play what we've been playing tomorrow in order to have success. And that means taking care of the ball and not turning it over and being tough.
Payroll is a part of it now too, with the NIL money and whatnot. How much, Wake Forest spends more than you guys do. How accurate do you guys know what other teams are, NIL money, and how much do you know per player, like how much each one's getting? How does that work when you study other teams and you got to start to figure, well, if that guy's getting this much, he might be willing to try. How does that factor in?
The money piece?
Yeah.
It's everything. It's the only thing. It's if you want to be honest about it.
You think some teams are you think you'll see teams that put a big investment in terms of people that gave money and they don't win? Do you think it'll come back down for some of them, because they'll say, hey, I invested, it didn't work?
Right. It could. That's definitely a reality. It could. I think one thing that we've been proud of is, we've been pretty smart and wise with how we've done this. In terms of, you just talk about like return on your investment. I think we've been pretty good. Some of it too is ego of a program. I think some fan bases have a true ego to them, and so maybe a down year here or there doesn't, reflect what they're going to possibly contribute or give, because they want that team to be successful regardless, and so you're going to have places where, to your point, if they underachieve, it doesn't matter. They're going to pour more in because, again, the ego of the program wants them to be really successful. You could have some places where maybe the fan base isn't as invested, or certain people are turned off by that, and they could probably easily say, well, our return on investment, so to speak, wasn't what we want it to be. We're not going to do that. And so there's always going to be kind of two ends to each deal. I think the biggest thing for us is, to continue to do what we do. You still want to, you got to take the right guys either way, right? Like we've all seen it, football, basketball, specifically on the men's side. I can speak to, you can have the biggest budget in the world, but if you take the wrong guys, it doesn't matter. Conversely, you could have a average or great, and if you take the right guys, you could blow it up. I mean, you could totally crush it. And so I think you got to kind of keep that in mind. Where does money solve a lot of issues? No doubt, right? If you want to be really good, there's no secret anymore. There's no secret, period.
But even if you blow it up, then you got to worry that they're going to offer them over here next year, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, part of our success last year was that, guys played their way up. There's a reason why, we had the year we had. We had some pretty talented players, and when you win and guys have the opportunity to play their way up, that's just all part of it. Hopefully the rev share piece can help kind of even the playing field a little bit. But it's something that we're always, especially as a head coach, when you're putting together a team. I mean, I got my GM hat on every day. You have to factor that in. You have to figure that in, because that is the new recruiting. That period. That is the new recruiting.
Ben, what are they signing now? It's not the old, when you sign a recruit, what are they signing? Contract, or what are they signing?
Yeah, so we're looking to the next piece of that and what that contract looks like, kind of what that is.
Isn't what it used to be.
Right, it's not what it used to be. The hard part is, even with contracts, you just worry, from my standpoint, you worry how much is really binding.
Yeah.
You can have agreements, and obviously I think that the way this is going with the amount of money that's in play, it's fair for both sides. Right? Both sides have to be protected to a certain degree. But also, I mean, you guys have seen it, like with the NCAA, we haven't necessarily won or been victorious in a lot of lawsuits. Like if a kid, a parent, or player wants something, or feels unjust about something, a lot of times they've been able to be successful in that. So you wonder, contracts are great and they are needed for both sides. And I think it's fair and it's right, it's just, but you still don't know at the end of the day, what's truly binding,
So grad transfer gets his picture on a billboard because they wanted him so bad to come here NIL, and he blows out his knee, and so does the NIL, does the university watch out to say, yeah, but you're obligated to pay this kid? Or did he just cut his own deal and, all of a sudden he's got no value to a,
Right.
prospective marketing?
Well, it's the same thing and we've seen it, in again, the two sports that I've absolutely followed a little bit closer, in men's football and basketball, where, what happens if somebody doesn't play to their level and they end up, you see a quarterback getting benched, or you see a player who you projected to be a starter and is no longer a starter. Like, it's the same thing. If you're not in the mix and impacting, how does that get viewed? And that we're all still learning to figure that out. We're all still, what's the answer to that? It's pro sports without us having the governing laws of being pro sports, right? You trade guys halfway through the year. You can't replace guys. There's no like waiver if a guy gets hurt. Unfortunately, there's nothing you can do in terms of pro sports from that standpoint. But everything else from the head coach's standpoint, it's like there's a lot of pro aspects to it that you're trying to navigate and figure out how can we still be successful operating like this. And so I think that's the challenge is there's a lot of questions and there's not a lot of answers fully that are just like, all right, concrete, here's how this is done. Because a lot of times it's the first time, right? This is the first time. And so you're also trying to figure out, there's still 18 to 21-year-olds trying to handle all this. And that's a different piece too. So every kid's different, every program's different, every year is going to look different. And so you find ways to navigate it as best you can and put your program in the best position to be successful. But I think it goes without saying that the financial backing is huge from the community, from the fan base. I'm excited. I'm glad, fortunate to be in the Big Ten because of the revenue sharing piece. I mean, that is real. I hope everybody understands that. And it's not a negative thing. It's the way the landscape is turning. But this is the first time that I can remember. You guys have done it. I mean, you've covered sports here for a long time. I mean, you tell me, when has there been a better time for Gopher basketball to be competitive with any program in the country? Like, year in and year out. You might get a kid, like when I played, we got, Chris and Rick to stay home. Those were in-state kids, so that's a little bit different. When's the last time Minnesota necessarily has been able to go out and you could get 2 or 3 difference makers outside of even the Midwest? Odds of that, very few. Or you're lucky, you get a Vashon, you get a Randy, you're lucky. But those guys were those guys when they were juniors. You don't have the fortune to wait necessarily 3 years for those guys. This is the first time when year to year, you could literally go on the portal and financially have a team like we've never had and do that consistently. Like, we've never had that opportunity ever. And so I look at it as a total positive that, all right, for us to even the landscape, it's not football where you got to have a lot of guys on both sides of the ball, right? It's basketball where, a couple of dollars here or there is a difference between some major difference makers. And in basketball, if you get 2 or 3 of those and you surround them with really good pieces, well, now you got a legit chance. And so to me, that's the exciting part, is understanding we've never had this opportunity, in my opinion, as a program on a national scene. And now we do. How can we find ways in our way to take full advantage of that and to be able to do that at a high level?
All right, thanks, Coach.
You see that Jerry Kills corner